So I need text pad. I'm going to create just a dummy little, well, if I do file save as, that'd be a big help. May 8th, HTML. Alrighty, now just like we've got here. Function, change demo. Alright, and this is leaving out some stuff, right? Because it's not showing what goes in the header tag. It's not showing what's going in the body tag. So we're going to rewind a little bit, find a good example of the HTML tag and the script tag. So I'm going to grab the last one. All right. So let's start with the HTML tag, HTML, and then head, and we're going to put a script. This is our script. I'm not going to bother indenting the script. This is the end of the script, so slash script, slash head. Now in the body of our code, we need to create our button and give it the proper ID that the script will be able to change. So we're going to do a button tag. And we did this last time, and we realized that, okay, yeah. So, down in the body, so open body, paragraph, we need to give this a nice name that'll be easy to find. ID equals, what I just call it, P1. Demo, alright. ID is equal to demo. ID equals quote demo. That's how our script will find the editor that's going to change. This is my text. End P, slash P. Slash P, angle brace. Alright, now I need that button. I'm not going to bother giving it an ID. I could if I was going to control it with JavaScript, but instead it's just going to activate our stuff, not be controlled by our stuff. So, button. Type equals quote button. End quote. On click equals quote, and we're going to call our function change demo. Right? I can even copy that and paste it just so that I know that I spelled it right. Parentheses, end parentheses, end quote. And now I need an end angle brace because that's the end of my button definition, but I need some text that's on the button. So click me. And then I need an end button tag. So slash button. Now pretty much I can do a slash body and a slash head, slash body and then slash HTML, and I will be done with this file. Slash body slash head. Why do I keep saying head? HTML slash body and then slash HTML. Let's expand this so that we can see the whole shebang on one. Alright, now I don't actually have any script in my change body. It's not going to do anything. But I'm going to at least view it to make sure that I have a line of text and a button. Yep, okay. Now we were using alerts to indicate that something had been clicked. But this time we're going to find element by ID. We're going to find that demo ID, and then we're going to change its inner HTML. So inside change demo. E equals document dot, and then it has to be capitalized exactly correctly, all lowercase except for E, by, and E, V, and I in get element by ID. Get capital E, element capital B, by capital I, D, and let's specify the ID that we want to change. And what we're saying is whatever that element is, we're instead going to make its HTML, enter, and then HTML needs to be in all caps, HTML equals, and then put some message. Hello from JavaScript. Okay, so that is working. Is that the only way to get an element? No, you can also get the element by its name, because you can also give elements names. You could even just start at the so-called top node and walk your way down. You want to get more sophisticated, and what the node is that each element is a node. And they make kind of a tree, right? The HTML node has two components. It's got a head and a body. The head node has one, the script. The body node has two, right? Like that. And so it's kind of a nested tree. And you can make your code wander, work its way down the tree to find the correct element to interact with. Alrighty. So I did prove that that worked for me. Now I don't have everything on the screen right now for y'all to be able to see this. I guess in order to do that, I'm going to cheat a little bit. Put the head tag on the same line as the HTML. And then put my line of text right there, like that. Alright, now I'm happy enough. At least you can all see it on the same thing. So here what we're going to do is we're going to make a picture that changes. Click the droid to swap them with a new one. Well, we already have all of our pictures, right? But why don't we make that button that we wrote, or why don't we write another button that changes an image from one picture to the next when you click it? Did we do this last time? You click a button and it changes it?
No, but we did the mouse over event.
Okay, we've done mouse over, but we haven't done the button changing.
Yeah.
So, what you're going to want to do is just down in here in the body of your code, do an image tag, but we also need to give it an ID. ID is equal to, you know, whatever you want to call it, just memorize it. Pick one. That's what I'm going to call mine. And then src equals, and you're going to have to give it the path to an image. I'm going to go out to my directory and find my file names. Alright, I had one called Puppy1 and Puppy2. Just make sure that you have two images, that you remember the file names. And so this one is going to be puppy1.jpg. And let's make another button that will change that image. So I'm just copying the entire button script from button down to slash button, and I'm going to paste it underneath the image tag. So this is my new stuff. Now calling it the text click me is kind of lame. I'm going to say change the pic. So I just changed that line of text. And I need to give it a different picture name. I mean a different function name. Instead of change demo, that's kind of lame. Let's call it change pic. Now we haven't written that function yet, but we're going to. But let's view it to make sure it looks hunky-dory before we even write that function. All right. That's kind of lame. It's not showing me my picture. Could be that I didn't save this into the right directory.
You probably saved it in the.
I saved mine in documents, so I need to do save as and get it into my CIT 1013 directory. All right, there's my puppy. There's the buttons. Click me, that changes the text. And change the pic, doesn't do anything yet. Now, just like last time, I think that the button is too wide, the puppy is too wide, so I'll probably change his style to be smaller. So after the source tag, but before the close brace, style equals, quote, width colon 500 px, 500 pixels, end quote. Now, why is the button and the picture and the next button all in one line? We don't have anything breaking them up, right? We should be putting them in separate divisions or separate paragraphs, but I'm not going to mess with that. So here's what we've added. We added an image tag. We've added a button. The text of the button says change the pic. Space it out a little bit.
Oh, I wrote the function and I just guessed which thing to use.
Oh, good deal. Okay, so I'm going to add a button called change pic. I'm going back up to my script. Function, change pic. Again, I'm pretty sure we're going to wind up getting the element by its ID. I'm going to sneak a peek at my PowerPoint. Yep, get element by ID. And then if the image source match, then change the image source. That's too complicated for now. Let's do it just the simpler way. So E is equal to document dot get element by ID, quote, and we call this one pic1. And then E dot image, okay, I didn't call it element, I called it image. So I'm going to change my script to match the example up here. So instead of E is equal to, change it to image is equal to document.getElement. But that's just a variable name, right? We could just call it thread if we wanted to. Image.source equals, and we're going to...
It's SRC, not the whole
Just SRC, that's right, because that's what it is down here. SRC is equal to, and then put a path to another image in there. Now, the code that I have up here was designed to make a toggle between two, so there was an if statement. I'm not even feeling compelled to do that. We click on it, it changes it, I'm pretty happy. This tells you how to look it up, right? Get the element number, then change one of the attributes of it.
To change it back, you can always just refresh the page.
Right, right. So here's a key thing to note, though. If that's its attribute, right, that's the attribute of the tag, you could change anything. You could change the style of it.
Oh, yeah. You could change the button if you wanted to.
Right, you could change the, I don't know why we would. I don't even recall what other types of buttons there are. Radio checkboxes and things like that.
Change the on-click so that it would do something else the second time you click it.
Yeah, that's true. That would be perverse and quite plausible. Yep.
So instead of doing the if statement to make it change back and forth, you could, in the change image function, you could change what the button does.
Oh, that's wicked. Let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, so where it says change pic,
Breaks the file.
we're going to write one called change pic 2, which is just a copy of change pic. Copy and paste it, make this one say change pic 2, and what does it do? It changes it back to puppy1.jpg. But we need to change the on-click resource. for that image. Excuse me, for that button. Oh, we'd have to look up the button, so never mind. We're not going to do this.
Well,
Sorry.
you give the button an ID as well.
Yeah, we'd have to give the button an ID. We'd have to look it up. I'm not going to do that because then I'll have to. I know that there will be some typos. I think that's enough to illustrate the concept. Does anybody not have a picture changing? All right. So, this function would pop up a confirmation dialog. And if they clicked yes, it would say yay. If they clicked no, it would say uh-oh. Let's go ahead and tag this in one of our functions that are already working, right? Rather than create yet another button and have it invoke it. We're just going to put these things inside of one of our functions that's already working. Like the one that says click me, right? That's so vague that I don't mind changing it. Let's go up here. And in the first one, the one that says change demo, we're going to create a variable. X is a lousy variable name, is it not? X equals confirm, quote, or parentheses, quote, confirmation dialog. End parentheses, or end quote, end parentheses. You know, and that's enough. Just let's run it without even adding any more of the code, just to see what that did. So if I click on click me, it says, the page says confirmation dialog, okay or cancel. So there's two options here being generated. If X is true, it meant that they pressed OK. If X is not true, it meant that they didn't print OK. They clicked cancel. So after we get our confirmation dialog, if X equals true, text equals you clicked OK, in semicolon, quote, in semicolon, else text equals quote, you clicked cancel, end quote, semicolon. And then we're going to pop that up as an alert because text is just a string variable, right? Now notice how we just willy-nilly went ahead and started stuffing stuff into a variable called text, where here we actually declare the variable beforehand. That gives me a question as to whether we could skip, just like we always do in Python, defining that variable to begin with. But let's see. So if I click me, confirmation dialog, it says you clicked OK. Now I'm going to try my little experiment. I'm going to remove the word var there. Run it again. It's going to work the same. Yeah, okay. So just like Python, you can create your variables on the fly even without declaring them.
I'm making a dialog box.
Pardon me?
What the heck?
start doing this, you'll notice that unlike Python, it doesn't give you a clue as what's wrong.
Yeah.
You absolutely get no indication, oh, you misspelled that keyword. Or, you know, it's kind of like tough luck. Used to be, back in the old days, you'd see like a little exclamation mark on your browser and you'd click on it and say, oh, there were JavaScript errors. Nowadays, they don't even tell you that. It's like they assume that the JavaScript is so lousy that they're not going to even tell you that there's a problem with it. Okay, maybe that's enough. Let's go ahead and look at the next thing we could do. But we've seen now, you know, storing stuff in variables, doing decisions based on it. Instead of alerting it, we could have set the text, you know, down in the... Okay, this last one is of interest to me. Here we're taking an image of Grumpy Cat or whatever. We're giving it the ID Grumpy. When you move your mouse over, we call bigger. And then when we move our mouse back out, we call smaller. And what does bigger do? It sets its height and width to 640. What does smaller do? It sets its height and its width back down to 320. Notice the use of the keyword this. That's a shorthand for saying this element. We're not having to look the element up by its ID, right? We're not doing that element find by ID. It's just we've said this is the element, so that's the one that I want you to change. Now here, we've added a button. The on-click does toggle visibility of Grumpy. Well, what's that going to do? We pop up in the toggle invisibility. ID is the name of the variable, excuse me, the ID of the variable. So we have an image back here that we gave an ID of Grumpy, so that's how it's going to be located. So we're saying, I want you to hide that guy. And it comes up here and it looks. First of all, again, get that element by ID, and then if this style.display is not equal to none, then it sets it equal to none. What does that mean? It means it's going to hide it. And then, if it was equal to none, then it sets it to blank, or empty string. That's actually a pair of apostrophes, not, you know, like that. We may as well do this part. Let's make it so that if we click on that click me button, that it actually hides, or it hides the text, instead of changing it to, you know, hello from JavaScript. So here, ChangeDemo sure is doing a lot of stuff, but after it changes the inner HTML, or even if it didn't, oh gosh, my brain. Style.display. e.style.display equals, quote, none, end quote. That's going to hide that particular element. And after I clicked through all my confirmations, it indeed did. If you wanted it to show, well, let's do that. Let's make it so that it toggles between them. X equals e.style.display. If x equals, quote, none, end quote, e.style. Can I type? e.style.display equals empty string, semicolon. Else e.style.display equals, quote, none, semicolon. So this is our new stuff right there. And these statements are starting to annoy me because I'm having to answer questions each time, so I'm going to comment these lines of code out. From X is equal to confirm, confirmation dialog, all the way down to alert text. So now when I run it, hopefully when I click me, that this is my text will disappear and that'll reappear. And it'll disappear and reappear. You can not only hide, you can actually remove nodes from your structure. The hiding is one way to deal with it. But we really don't want things jumping around, do we? So what you do when you're making a pro web page is you use divs, divider sections, and then you give height and width to the section so that even if something, changes inside it, it doesn't push the rest of the document up or down. All right. I'd like to stop there so that we have a time to look at using Python as our web server. I want to see if we have time to do this. All right, if you scroll down to the very bottom, there should be a homework folder called Python Web App Beatles. Wait until lecture to begin. Inside there should be some documents. Specifically, a link to a video you could watch, and a zip file called Web App Zip 1, and then an assignment file. I'm going to open the assignment file, tuck that to the side. I'm not going to be using TextEdit anymore, so I could just close that window. Then I'm going to open up the zip. So I'm going to click on webapp1.zip. Open that up. I need to extract it, and I strongly resent that they've overridden the zip handler with this zip handler. Okay, so I'm just extracting mine to downloads apparently. And so if I go to downloads, I'll see a Web App 1 folder. And if I look, there's an index file. I'm not going to double click it because that would launch, well, I guess I will. Welcome to the most awesome Beatles webpage ever. For now, all that you'll find is a voting poll. Enjoy. But if I click on voting poll, I see a bunch of garbage. Looks like script. Actually, it is script. Python is using a library called YATE, yet another template. Okay, so if we edited it, we should probably just open it with idle or TextPad, any HTML editor. There we go. Looks very familiar, very similar to our others. It doesn't have anything that we didn't use. The key is that this is going to be invoking or served up by our Python web server. What's our Python web server? Well, you see that simple underscore HTTPD, and it's okay if you actually can't get this up and running. What do I mean by that? Well, if you unzip it and you can't find it, or you're doing this on a Mac and the pieces aren't seeming to be in place, I don't want to take the time in this case to walk around. You could watch the video that is linked and redo the assignment if you wanted to. Okay, so check out this script. This is our Python script. From this library, import this class and this class. You can see why I didn't make you type that in. And then it tells the port that we're going to be listening to. And port 8080 is just the HTTP hypertext port. Every way that your machine can be contacted by another machine, there'll be a different port. Like if you set yourself up as an FTP server, then there's an FTP port, and so on. All right, and so this creates a variable called HTTP server, and its constructor specifies the port and passes to it a request handler. And then it just prints starting simple HTTP on this port and then serve forever. So we need this running up in the background, and we need to never close it. And if we get an error, then we're going to have to run it again. I'll be right there. So I'm just going to do run module, and it says starting simple HTTP daemon on port 8080. So now we have a web server running on our own device ready to respond to our requests. So go ahead and look at the Word doc. Now, I need to open that page. Well, the web server, that's the only web page that it knows about. So I'm going to use localhost. Rather than specify a server on the network, if you open something that says localhost, it's asking your own machine to serve up that document, which wouldn't work if we didn't have a web server running, watching port 8080. But we do. So I should be able to go to any browser. I could just click on that link.
It works with the loopback address too.
Oh yeah,
127.0.0.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Okay.
It works the same.
So yeah, we could do that. http://127.0.0.1. Do I even have to specify the port? Okay.
Yeah.
Slash,
Colon.
yeah, colon 8080. I like that better. Okay, so that's our web address, right? As far as this local system is concerned. It's not our real address, but it's a loopback IP address. We always have that IP address assigned to our own machine, and then you have it, on your own machine and so on. Okay, so welcome to the most awesome Beatles webpage ever. For now, all that you'll find is a voting poll. If I click on voting poll, it does something. Did you see it pop up the Python script? A little black window appeared. But this is different than what happened when I just viewed it through the, when I went here and I opened my HTML like that, and I clicked on it, I saw some Python script. Instead, should have closed it. When I go to 127.0.0.1:8080 and I click this, it pops this up. So where did this come from? Well, compare that to what we saw before. This is the script that generated that web page right here. It's the template, I should say, that generated the web page. Come on. Put them up side by side. My daemon is still running in the background. It's serving up web pages as they get requested. You can see that it loaded up and executed a script called voting.py. Voting.py is what we see here. This is the contents of voting.py. And when it ran, here's what we saw. Who's the best Beatle of all time? There was a header, there was a text, and then there were 4 checkboxes, and then there's a select button. So if we go and we compare that to the script, look at this. We have this is just pure Python, so it should look very similar. We have an array,
Dictionary.
and then we ask the template to start a response, to include a header, to start a form, and in the form,
Paragraph.
start a paragraph. Who is the best Beatle of all time? Let's see if we can break these out. It's 2 separate things, so that makes sense, right? Who is the best Beatle of all time? And then we have a for loop. And then for every element in our band array, our band list, we add another radio button to it, and then we end our form, and then we have a header down at the bottom.
Okay, so the Yate thing is using Python to print HTML.
Exactly, right. So if we went over here and we clicked and we did view page source, we would see what
So that's
those
what the
Yate
Python
commands
script
executed.
outputs.
Right. So up here at the top, Yate.startResponse did this. HTML, head, title.
Include a header.
Yeah.
There.
And then so then, yeah, for the header, we see a header right there being generated by include header.
8 dot.
We see
parent
start form there. Form action is equal to vote selected.
apply. Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, it is pretty neat. So, if we ran it and we clicked somebody and we click select, we saw it run another script. And so Beetle Pete, right on man, love is all you need. Home or vote again. All right, so where are those scripts actually hidden? Go back to your
In the
directory
CGI bin.
and you'll see a CGI directory.
It actually says the file location at the top in the URL bar.
Right. So this generate timing data, I think that's from a prior version of it. I don't think that has anything to do with what we're working on now. We could delete that. I meant to. Yeah. Which athlete? Coach Kelly's timing data, whatever. So I need to delete that and rezip it so that it's not there. But we see voting.py. We see our template library, gate.py. Yeah, it might be fun to pop that open for a second. Here's not very hard actually. If we look at it, this stuff's pretty short.
It's just, yeah, it is just printing HTML.
Right. So, just for total giggles, right click or from within idle. Yeah, let's do it from within idle. Do file open. Go into the CGI bin directory. Since I downloaded mine to documents, it's there. Right. No, it's in downloads. Downloads, web app 1, CGI bin. Find our voting page. And just add a print statement here where it says who is the best Beatle of all time. Just add a pure print. We're not going to even use the text editor. Right? /p. This is my rogue hacker paragraph. Make sure you save it and then access the web page again through your browser. And you see that? Since I printed that, it became part of the HTML. So you can see what this is really doing, is it's just issuing print statements that get sent back to the server in the form of an HTML document.
Oh, instead of doing the loopback address, you can also go do the IP config to look at your IP address and use that.
Oh, right. Yeah, we could get our real IP address, or, if we wanted to do that. Localhost also works as your loopback IP address. So, not that. Let's make some changes. We need the code to change to say Ringo instead of Pete. If you know your Beatles history, they fired poor old Pete and hired Ringo instead. Also, the names are not being displayed in the order as we prefer, because the band is declared as a set, which we haven't really talked about, but it's just an unordered list.
Or what? To me, it looks like a dictionary. Dictionaries are kind of the same,
Yeah.
but without like any values.
Without values
It's just the
added
keys,
to it,
not
right.
no values.
So, pop open your voting.py file, and you see that curly brace? I want this to be just a square brace so that it actually is a list, so that they'll be displayed in order, because a set has no order. It's an unordered list of data, which you can do set commands on, like merge, right? Merge two sets together. All right, and Pete is no longer in the band, so we're going to change Pete to Ringo. Hopefully our daemon is still working in the background, and I hope that you're not insulted by the term daemon or find it inappropriate. The Unix programmers came up with that in the 70s, so
Spelled with an A.
we use that. Yep, they spell it with an A. Daemon. Okay, so
Matt Damon.
yeah, Matt Daemon. So I still have no. I want to see my output script. my shell. My shell is still running, hopefully. Okay. So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to access the web page again. After you make any changes to your PY script, you have to save it. So since I made some changes to voting.py, I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to go back to my browser, refresh. Well, not refresh. I'm going to go to 127.0.0.1:8080. Or if you like, localhost 8080. And there we go. Now pull up the voting poll. And now it's in John, Paul, George, and Ringo.
Whoa.
So we made that change.
Yeah, I have something.
Okay. Now, it would be neato slick if the voting results differed based on who we chose. If we selected John, all it says is right on, man, all you need is love. If you click Paul, it does the same thing.
Oh, it's 'cause it's trying to look for keys.
If you click George, it does the same thing. But we can customize those results. So what we want to do now is to find the other one, voteselected.py. So in idle, I think I'm going to just close
Yeah, 'cause if you just
voting.py.
change it to a list, when it tries to run voteselected.py, it gives you a very odd-looking error screen.
Oh, I want to see that, just a sec. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up, file, open, go into CGI bin. Vote selected is our script that gets triggered every time something is run. And what does it do? Well, we gets our name out of the form data. Now we would have to investigate the HTML a little bit more to understand what this call is doing. So I'm going to come back over here, view the HTML, view the page source. You see, our voting section is enclosed in a tag called form. It's got a button that when clicked, or when the action is invoked, it will load this page, vote_selected.py. And so then we have radio buttons, our choices, and they're all linked together by the same name, which beetle, which beetle, which beetle, which beetle. So when our script runs, it's got an array. Which beetle was chosen? Form data, which beetle? And so then we print out a header, followed by the name, and then we have some fancy text here. We're going to polish this up a little bit so that it differs based on a name-by-name basis. Alright, so here's what I want to change my vote selected script to look like. Once we get the name of the person, we're going to just do a simple if, elif, elif, elif. And then we're going to have the default one, which is if we don't even recognize the name, right? Somebody snuck a peek back in there, at least we're going to say something. Okay, so in our vote selected script, right after we get the name, and we print out that as part of the header, if name equals quote John, end quote colon, print YATE dot para. Make sure I get this right. And then a message. Where was I? Right, I'm right here. So if name is equal to quote John quote, print. Yep. Love is all you need. Or yeah, it doesn't matter what we say. Strawberry fields forever. We need an end quote and we need two in parentheses after that point. Elif name is equal to Paul, end quote colon, print, parentheses, yate.para, and let's print a message out about Paul. Poor Paul, I made it say no one really likes George anyways, and yet he's my wife's favorite Beatle. She would have been so insulted. Okay, so here we go. Paul is on the yellow submarine. End quote, in parentheses, in parentheses. And lastly, we're just going to do else colon and then do these last two things that were already down here, kind of as a default. I'm going to test it real fast and all right, Strawberry Fields Forever for John. For Paul, it says Paul's on the yellow submarine. For George, it says Right On Man, Love Is All You Need. All right, if you were trying to get this to work, I'd like for you to have the satisfaction of it working. So I'm going to stop the recording here. Make a Dropbox. Actually, we have a Dropbox, don't we? Yep, we already have the Dropbox. So just go ahead and stick your HTML scripts and any PY files you edited, which would be the voting PY and the vote selected PY. Go ahead and upload those.